Rain lashed against the windowpane as Julia sat cross-legged on her bed, scrolling through her messages. Her apartment was dim, lit only by the soft glow of her bedside lamp. The storm outside grumbled like something old and angry. Her finger froze mid-swipe when she saw a strange message request on her phone. No name. Just a red balloon emoji as the profile picture. You are invited to her birthday. Come. She's been waiting. Balloon. Attached was a location. No time. No name. No details. Julia's stomach knotted. The message had no sender. No reply option. She stared at the balloon, its crimson shape almost pulsing against the black background. Curious, unsettled, and fighting a gnawing sense of dread, Julia did the worst thing she could have done. She tapped the location. It was a house on the outskirts of town. Abandoned for decades. She recognized it from a local urban legend, the Smiling Woman's House. The story went that decades ago, a woman named Helen Merrick threw herself a birthday party every year even after her family died in a fire. She'd smile wide, wear her black dress, and serve rotting cake to empty chairs. Neighbors claimed they'd hear singing, glass clinking, and whispers behind their walls, until one day, she simply vanished. The house was sealed off after 3 children went missing inside. Now, this exact house was on her screen. Julia chuckled nervously, trying to shake off the icy fingers crawling up her spine. Probably a prank. Maybe one of her friends being weird. But something about the timing, her birthday was in 3 days, made her breath catch. She shoved the phone aside and turned off the lamp. That's when she heard it. Tap. 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 At her window. 3 slow taps. She lived on the 6th floor. She didn't move. Barely breathed. The wind. A branch. Tap. 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 This time louder. Followed by a dragging sound across the glass, like fingernails made of bone. Her heart thudded in her throat as she slowly sat up and turned toward the window. Nothing. Just the rain. Her reflection in the glass, until she realized she wasn't alone in it. Behind her reflection stood a woman. Pale. Hollow-eyed. Wearing a soaked black dress. Her smile stretched unnaturally from cheek to cheek, a grotesque crescent too wide for her face. Julia spun around. No one. She snapped the lamp back on. The room was empty. Her phone buzzed again. You saw her. Now you must come. Balloon birthday cake. Julia's skin crawled. The air around her had grown thick and cold. The shadows in the room seemed longer than they should be. She grabbed her phone and typed back, but the message thread had vanished. Her heart was pounding like a war drum. This wasn't funny anymore. Then came the music. Soft and distant at first. A warbled version of Happy Birthday, playing somewhere in the apartment. Notes broken. Slurred. Dripping with static. She stepped into the hallway, the lights flickering as if protesting her presence. The sound led her to the kitchen. Her refrigerator door was open. Inside, where milk and leftovers should have been, was a single rotting cake. Its icing cracked and dry, topped with one crooked candle still flickering. Written in red, "For you, Julia." The air shifted. A cold breath behind her ear. And a voice, wet, broken, smiling, whispered. She never liked being alone on her birthday. Julia turned. The woman was there. Closer this time. Her smile impossibly wide. Her eyes 2 wet pits of grief. And she started to sing. Julia slammed the fridge door shut, but the image of that rotting cake was burned into her mind. The flickering candle had stayed lit even without a flame. She stumbled back toward her bedroom, but the hallway felt longer. Too long. Like the walls had stretched while she wasn't looking. The wallpaper peeled in jagged strips like shedding skin, and the dim bulbs above flickered erratically, casting twitching shadows along the floor. Her footsteps echoed strangely, as if someone else were walking with her. She stopped. So did the echoes. The singing had returned. Closer. Happy birthday to you, the voice dragged the melody like a dead weight, off-key, wrong in a way that made Julia's ears ache. She turned, expecting the woman to be there again. But she wasn't. Instead, there was a candle. Floating. Hovering a few inches off the floor, flickering without flame. It burned a deep, unnatural red, as if bleeding light. And it was slowly drifting down the hall, toward her. No breeze. No strings. Nothing holding it up. Just drifting. Inviting. Compelling. Julia couldn't help it. Her feet moved without her permission, drawn toward the candle. The hallway bent and twisted as she walked, like the walls were breathing, expanding with each of her steps. The floorboards began to creak, not with her weight, but with something beneath her. She reached the candle, and the second her fingers brushed the base, everything went black. Silence. Total silence. Then. Blow it out. The voice came from inside her head. Not spoken aloud. It filled her skull like an echo inside a wet cave. A face appeared in the darkness, illuminated by nothing but the red candle now in her hand. The smiling woman. Her face was closer than it had ever been. Julia could see the cracks in her skin, dry, corpse-like fissures. Her smile tore slightly wider at the corners. And her eyes, God, those eyes. They weren't human. They were empty, swirling pits that flickered with images. Fire, shadows, screaming children, and herself. Julia saw her own face, screaming inside the woman's eyes. Blow it out, the voice repeated. No, Julia whispered, holding the candle away. The smile twitched. Blow it out. A sudden gust of cold air slammed into her from behind, nearly toppling her forward. The candle wobbled. Julia ran. She didn't care where. She sprinted through the dark, twisting corridors, her own apartment now a maze of impossibility. Hallways spiraled, doors led to dead ends, and every mirror she passed reflected the smiling woman standing behind her. Always smiling. Always watching. She finally found her bedroom door. Bursting through, she locked it behind her and turned. The candle was still in her hand. It had never left. But something was different. The red wax was now melting upward, dripping in reverse toward the wick, which pulsed like a beating heart. Then the flame whispered again. One wish. Make it. Julia stared at it, trembling. I want to forget this, she whispered. The flame flared. Her body jerked, every muscle seizing like she'd been electrocuted. The room bent inward, folding like paper, then exploded in a crack of red light. Silence again. She was back in her room. Morning. The sun shone. Birds chirped. Her phone sat beside her, showing no messages. Maybe it was all a dream. She smiled with relief, until she turned to her dresser mirror. On the surface, written in blood-red wax. Happy birthday, Julia. 1 candle down. 6 to go. Julia didn't sleep the next night. She couldn't. The candle was gone when she awoke, but the message in red wax remained. Every attempt to clean it off failed. Soap, alcohol, even scraping with a knife, nothing worked. It was as if the mirror had bled the words onto itself. 1 candle down. 6 to go. 7 days. 7 candles. 7 gifts. The thought made her skin crawl. Julia kept the lights on all day. Every shadow felt like it held a hidden grin. Every mirror twisted with something just slightly off. Faces that smiled too long. Eyes that blinked out of sync. And that song, it haunted her. Happy birthday, in that garbled, droning voice. Sometimes she swore it came from the pipes, from her closet, even her own mouth when she wasn't paying attention. By evening, she found herself staring at her bedroom window. It had fogged, though the room wasn't cold. Written in the condensation were 3 words. Open your gift. Her blood ran cold. She hadn't bought herself anything. She hadn't even told anyone her birthday was coming. And she damn sure didn't expect a package sitting at the foot of her bed. Wrapped in faded floral paper, old and water-stained. A brittle red ribbon tied in a crooked bow. Julia backed away, heart pounding. She hadn't seen it this morning. It hadn't been there. She was sure. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Balloon, open it. Balloon. No, she whispered to the air. No, no, no. A knock, sharp and sudden, rattled her front door. Then another knock. Then, laughter. Childlike. Giggling. Dozens of voices outside her apartment door. She grabbed the box, ready to throw it out the window, until she saw it had her name on it. Not written. Carved. Each letter dug in deep, scrawled by something sharp and violent. Julia. Shaking, she opened it. Inside was a doll. A small porcelain girl with curly black hair, one eye cracked and leaking dark red resin. Its mouth had been painted into a stretched, unnatural smile. And it wore a tiny black dress. Her hands were stitched together with black thread, holding something tight. Julia hesitated, then pried the hands apart. Another candle. This one black, with streaks of red like dried blood swirling down its sides. It lit itself. No matches. No friction. No warning. It just burst into flame. And then the room screamed. Every surface vibrated with the sound of anguish, shrill, wailing, tearing at her eardrums. The doll's mouth cracked wider, too wide, until it split the porcelain with a sickening crunch. A voice echoed through the screaming. She used to be my daughter. I made her smile too. Will you smile for me, Julia? Julia collapsed to her knees, covering her ears, tears streaking her face. Make it stop, she screamed. The light from the candle dimmed. Silence returned. But the doll had changed. It was looking at her now. Its eyes, once blank, now followed her every move. And when she blinked, it moved an inch closer. Julia hurled it into the closet and slammed the door. The flame still flickered. On the wall above her dresser, more wax began to drip, spelling new words in jagged, red lines. Gift to received. Smile wider. Julia curled into herself on the floor, sobbing. Her birthday wasn't for 5 more days. She wasn't going to make it. Julia hadn't left her apartment in 2 days. Food rotted in the kitchen. Her phone had no service. Every clock in the house ticked backward now. And the doll? It was gone. She'd locked it in the closet, but when she checked again, the closet was empty, except for a single cracked camera sitting in the center of the floor. It wasn't hers. It looked like it came from another century. Old, dusty, metal, with a broken leather strap and a lens that looked like an unblinking eye. Attached to it with string was a card. Say cheese. Julia wanted to run, to scream, to smash the camera to pieces. But something stopped her. That same magnetic force she'd felt with the candle, the box. The force of her choice being taken away. Her hands reached out. She didn't want to touch it, but her fingers wrapped around the cold metal anyway. The instant she did. Flash. A blinding burst of light. The room vanished in white. When her vision returned, she was no longer in her bedroom. She was in a room filled with photos. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Every wall was covered in Polaroids, all tacked up like memories on display. But they weren't hers. They were all of people, frozen mid-scream, eyes wide with terror, mouth stretched open or, smiling. Horribly. Unnaturally. Some faces were burned. Others scratched out. A few were children, heads tilted at impossible angles, cheeks split from cheekbone to ear in jagged grins. In the center of the room stood a mirror. Julia stepped toward it, unsure what she'd see. It was her reflection. But not her. This version of her smiled. Wide. Horrifyingly wide. Her eyes were bleeding, her teeth too many and too sharp. She wore the same black dress as the smiling woman. And then it spoke. The mirror moved. But she didn't. Say cheese, Julia. Flash. She stumbled back as another blinding light filled her eyes. The camera, still in her hands, had taken a photo. A new Polaroid spat out from its mouth. She hesitated, then looked. It was her, standing just as she was now. Except, something stood behind her. A figure, tall and pale, with long black hair and a smile like a torn wound. The smiling woman. She was close. Too close. Julia spun around. Nothing. Flash. Another photo. This one showed her sleeping in bed. She hadn't taken that picture. She dropped the camera. It clicked on its own. Flash. It took one more photo. The room began to twist again. The Polaroids flapped on the walls as if breathing. Wind howled from nowhere. The mirror cracked, once, twice, then shattered. Standing behind the broken glass was the woman. Closer than ever. She raised a finger and pointed directly at Julia. Then the voice again. Whispering from the walls. Smile for me. Smile wide. Julia screamed and ran. But no door led out of the room now. Only the walls of photos. All eyes watching her. The camera clicked on the floor. Flash. Darkness. Then silence. Julia awoke on her bed again. Morning light. Normalcy. The camera sat on her nightstand. The photo on top this time. It was of Julia. Smiling. Mouth sewn shut with black thread. And on the back, written in blood. 3 candles down. 4 to go. You're almost ready. Julia no longer trusted the morning light. It lied. The camera still sat on her nightstand, unmoving, silent, but she knew better now. She hadn't touched it since the last picture, yet every few hours a new photo would appear on its own. Some were of her sleeping. Others showed her in rooms she had never seen before. One showed her drowning, face contorted in terror, hair swirling around her like seaweed, except she had never been near water. And every photo had something else in it. A shadow. A smile. The woman. Julia had stopped looking. She was unraveling. Sleep deprived. Heart racing every hour. Every shadow in her apartment whispered her name. Every surface hummed a low, guttural song. She knew something was coming. It arrived that night. It began with the music. Old. Dusty. A broken lullaby playing from somewhere in the apartment. It started as a soft hum, almost beautiful, then began to distort. It warped into something too slow, too wet, like it was being played on strings made of skin. Then the lyrics began. A voice, childlike, ghostly, and feminine, singing softly. Happy, happy birthday. Her smile is made of thread. If you don't join her party, she'll smile you when you're dead. Julia covered her ears, but the voice was inside her skull. Every syllable felt like fingers scratching the inside of her brain. She staggered into the hallway. The lights were dead. But the music grew louder, coming from behind her bathroom door. She hesitated. Then slowly pushed it open. Candles lined the sink. 7 of them. Only 3 were lit. The others stood unburnt, waiting. The 4th, black with white spirals, ignited the moment she looked at it. And the bathroom mirror lit up. Not with reflection. With a screen. A grainy, black and white video began to play on the mirror's surface. Julia stood frozen as she watched. The video was old, static-filled. It showed a little girl in a party dress, standing alone in a dimly lit room. No guests. No cake. Only a record player spinning the haunting birthday song. The little girl turned toward the camera. Julia gasped. It was her. Younger. Maybe 8 years old. Alone. Forgotten. She remembered this birthday. No one came. Her parents were fighting. She had cried herself to sleep in that same dress. But she didn't remember this. On the screen, the young Julia smiled suddenly, wide, eerie. Behind her, the smiling woman emerged from the shadows, long arms wrapping around her. Then the girl began to sing along. Same song. Same melody. Julia backed away. The mirror cracked once. Then again. Then exploded. From the shards rose the song, blaring from every surface of the room. The walls vibrated. The floor groaned. And then. She saw her. The smiling woman, crawling slowly from the bathtub, head twitching, neck twisted at a crooked angle. Her mouth stretched unnaturally open, singing with Julia's own voice. Smile and blow your candle. Wish and never tell. Soon the smile will find you. And drag you into hell. Julia screamed and bolted from the room. Behind her, the 4th candle still flickered. The hallway had changed. Lined with framed photos of her as a child, each image growing progressively more unnatural. The smiles got wider. The eyes emptier. And in the final photo, right beside her bedroom door, was a picture of her today. Smiling. Bleeding. Eyes sewn shut. Beside the frame was a single line etched in red. 4 candles down. 3 more smiles to go. Julia collapsed to her knees, trembling. Her favorite song was now her curse. Julia hadn't spoken a word in over a day. Her throat burned from the scream she'd let out when the mirror shattered. She sat curled up in a corner of her bedroom, staring at the camera on the nightstand, waiting for it to blink or breathe or hum. But it didn't need to move anymore. The 4th candle had stopped burning, but the scent of wax and rot lingered. She kept hearing footsteps in her kitchen. Children's laughter from inside the walls. And sometimes, her own voice humming that cursed birthday song. The air had grown thicker, warmer, like the room was sweating. She barely noticed the envelope that had been slipped under her door. It was cream-colored. Elegant. Smudged with fingerprints that weren't hers. Her name was scrawled across the front. Julia Eleanor Graves. Her full name. She hadn't used Eleanor in years. No one even knew it. Hands trembling, she opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded card. Blood-red letters in calligraphic ink. You are cordially invited to the birthday party of the Smiling Woman. Your attendance is mandatory. Please see guest list below. Below was a list of names. Her mother. Her father. Her younger brother. Her ex-boyfriend. Her former best friend. Her second-grade teacher. And finally, Julia Eleanor Graves. 7 names. 7 guests. She stared in horror. Every name was someone she had pushed away, forgotten, or abandoned. People she'd hurt. People who had left her, or whom she had left. Tears welled in her eyes. This was no longer just a haunting. It was a reckoning. There was a knock at the front door. Then another. Then another. 7 knocks. She crept to the peephole. No one was there. But on the floor, where the envelope had been, now sat 7 party hats, each one labeled with a name. And beside them, a music box. Its lid flipped open. And the song began again. Happy, happy birthday. To the girl who hid her face. Now it's time for all the guests to take their final place. The room grew cold. Then came the pounding. Boom. 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 From the walls. From under the bed. From inside the mirror. Julia turned slowly, and froze. They were there. All of them. Her guests. Her mother, face half-burned, still in her nightgown from the night she overdosed. Her father, expressionless, mouth sewn shut with black thread. Her brother, no longer a child, now twisted and disfigured, holding a stuffed bear covered in blood. Her ex-boyfriend, with a broken neck and a smile that stretched too wide. Her best friend, with her wrists slashed, bleeding endlessly but still smiling. Her teacher, eyeless, teeth chattering like she was cold, or excited. They formed a circle in the middle of her room. And in the center. A table. A birthday cake. 7 candles. 4 were already lit. The 5th lit itself with a sudden spark. Smoke twisted into the shape of the smiling woman's face above the flame. Her voice echoed. Take your seat, Julia. Your party is almost complete. Julia shook her head, backing into the corner. Her guests turned to look at her. All in unison. All smiling. And they began to sing. One by one. Blow the candles, don't be late. Smile wide and seal your fate. Julia screamed. The camera on the nightstand clicked. Flash. A new photo appeared. Julia at the table. Smiling. And on the wall, written in melting wax. 5 candles down. 2 to go. The cake is almost ready. Julia didn't remember falling asleep. She only remembered waking up, already sitting at the table, bound to the chair with party streamers soaked in something sticky. Her wrists stung where they touched. The room around her had changed. Gone was her bedroom, her walls, her furniture. Now she sat in a rotting party hall, lit only by flickering candles that hung upside down from the ceiling like dead bats. The table was long, covered in a filthy lace cloth, buzzing with flies. The cake in the center was 7 layers tall and bleeding, a thick, syrupy red ooze that dripped like fresh wounds. All 6 guests sat beside her. Motionless. Grinning. Rotting. And across from her, at the head of the table, sat the smiling woman. Her face was clearer now. Smooth porcelain skin stretched too tight. Her mouth torn at the edges, revealing sharpened teeth like broken glass. Her black eyes were mirrors, and Julia saw herself in them, bound, screaming, already gone. The 6th candle lit itself. Julia screamed and struggled, but the party streamers only pulled tighter, whispering in voices she recognized, her mother, her brother, her ex, chanting her name over and over. Julia. 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 The woman raised a fork. Then pointed to the cake. Make your wish. Her voice was layered, like a choir of corpses. No, Julia sobbed. Please. I just want to forget. The room fell dead silent. The guests turned their heads in perfect unison to face her. The smiling woman grinned wider. You've already wished once, child. Do you remember what you gave up in return? Julia's mind spun. The first candle. She had wished to forget. To forget this. And now here she was again. Trapped in a curse that only fed on her every wish. You don't remember, the woman whispered. Because that was the price. The room tilted. The walls cracked. Shadows moved like dancers in a loop behind them. The final candle sparked to life. 7 flames. 7 days. 7 sins. The cake began to twitch, as if alive. Fingers pushed from the icing, pressing against the frosting like something was being born inside. The camera clicked from somewhere above. A photo floated down from the darkness and landed in Julia's lap. It showed her, already smiling, eyes hollow, mouth stitched. A permanent party favor. A message was scrawled on the back. Last chance. Blow out the candle. Julia sobbed as the room vibrated with a dark humming sound. The guests began to tap their fingers in rhythm. 1. 2. 1. 2. The woman stood. Her mouth opened wider than her skull. And she screamed. Blow it out. Julia couldn't breathe. She leaned forward. She stared at the flame. It flickered. She closed her eyes. And blew. Darkness. Silence. She woke up in her bed. Sunlight poured through the window. Everything was clean. Her phone buzzed with texts. Normal ones. People wishing her a happy birthday. No blood. No cake. No guests. Just peace. Julia laughed. It was over. Maybe she'd gone crazy. Maybe it was a nightmare. She got up and walked into the bathroom to splash her face. The mirror was spotless. Except for one detail. In the reflection, she was smiling, but her face wasn't moving. Her reflection blinked on its own. Then raised a finger to her lips. Shoo. Behind her, from the shadows, came the song. Slow. Faint. Smile and blow your candle. Wish and never tell. Soon the smile will find you. And drag you into hell. Julia turned to run. But her reflection didn't. It just stood there, smiling. Forever. 3 weeks after Julia's disappearance, the apartment was declared vacant. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. Just, gone. All that remained was a single room locked from the inside. The maintenance man swore he hadn't touched it. The key didn't work. When they finally broke the door down, they found a single candle still burning on a rotting birthday cake, 7 layers, untouched, sitting in the middle of the room. The flame gave off no heat. No smoke. No one ever spoke of the smell. Police found nothing of Julia, no prints, no clothing, no blood. But on the wall opposite the cake hung a large mirror. Etched into the surface with wax. Smile for the next guest. The apartment was sealed, of course. Left abandoned. Most thought it was a mental break. Others whispered of a curse. But no one wanted to stay long enough to find out. Except Maddie. She was 17, bold, and obsessed with urban legends. She'd heard the stories, about the smiling woman, the cursed birthdays, the girl who vanished after 7 candles. So when the dare came to break in one stormy night, Maddie agreed. She climbed in through the old fire escape. Alone. Her flashlight flickered as she entered the bedroom. The air was thick. Still. And there it was. The cake. Still there. Molded. Oozing. But one candle, still lit. Her eyes widened in amazement. No way, she whispered. It's real. She approached the mirror. Her reflection looked normal, until it didn't. Her face in the mirror tilted on its own. Her mouth twitched into a small grin. She blinked, only her reflection didn't. A whisper rose from behind her. "Would you like to blow out the first candle?" Maddie turned around. No one. The mirror behind her now read. One wish. One guest. One smile. And then the birthday song began. Soft. Slow. Wet. The flame flickered harder now, casting long shadows that twisted and grinned. And Maddie, curious, brave Maddie, smiled. Elsewhere. In a place between walls and thought, where time doesn't flow and mirrors lead to nowhere, Julia sits. Her mouth sewn shut. Her smile permanent. Eyes hollow. Candlelight flickers behind her, always behind her. She is no longer screaming. She is watching. Waiting. Her party never ended. It only grows. One guest at a time. The smiling woman thanks you for attending. Balloon, see you next birthday. Balloon. The end.